Hey friends, welcome to Answers with Experts by Koelsch Communities. We're so excited to have you here today. This is our series in which we feature different experts from around the globe answering questions from real families about dementia and other aging related issues. So I'm excited to introduce today's topic to you. Don't go away. Here we go. Our guest expert is Pam Ostrowski with Alzheimer's Family Consulting. She spent over 14 years caring for her own family members with dementia on their journey, and then realized that she had so many tools she had learned from that experience that she wrote an amazing book called It's Not That Simple, and she started a practice of consulting with families across the globe who are going through this situation. So we asked Pam, there's a lot of families that don't know what dementia consulting or Alzheimer's family consulting is. What does it mean to get a coach help you with a dementia situation? And so you suggested that we do a live coaching session. And so I would just love it if you can both introduce Marianne, who is going through the situation right now personally, and tell us briefly what's in your book. And I will let you take it from there. I'm going to go off screen and monitor comments. Please, if you're watching today, put comments, questions in. Pam, Marianne will try to get to them as we go.
Sounds good. Thank you, Benjamin. I appreciate the introduction. Hello, everyone. To Benjamin's point, I went through a 14-year journey with my mom and wrote the book, It's Not That Simple, Helping Families Navigate the Alzheimer's Journey. This is what the cover looks like if you're looking for it on Amazon or any other book outlet. That being said, my father in his later years, the last 3 years of his life, had vascular dementia at the same time with mom. So we definitely went through a lot of the journey around anxiety and issues. So this book talks about, first of all, what dementia and Alzheimer's are, followed by when's the right time to start talking about what you want to have happen moving forward in your life. If you're the one with dementia, you preferably want to have that conversation before you get diagnosed. And then really about care options. It's not your father's nursing home anymore. That was from the 70s. And we also talk about building a care team. You cannot do this alone. This is not a disease that you can cope with alone. I think Marianne will be talking about that a bit herself. And then talking about how do we talk? How do we communicate with someone who has cognitive impairment and who has short-term memory and who continually repeats the same question over and over and over again, which is probably pretty relatable to everyone on this call. So we also talk about how do you deal with the emotional roller coaster, because caring for a loved one, someone that you've known for decades, and watching them disappear, watching them not be able to do things that they taught you how to do. It's really heartbreaking, but there are moments of joy. This is a transformational journey, and we have to look at it as that when we're a caregiver, when we're someone who's watching over our loved one. And so it's really important to do that. So that's just the highlights of the book. And then I believe that Benjamin will be putting this links to this in the chat. So grab the link, just click on it, and then you'll have it up in your web browser. So now I'd like to introduce Marianne Parks. Marianne and I connected via Koelsch Communities because her mom has been diagnosed with dementia. And Marianne will fill us in on the background. But the way these coaching sessions work is that we usually start off with, let's get to know each other. And that's a complimentary session for 30 minutes. And that's about what this one's going to run, just so everyone knows. And then the next session usually ends up being 60 to 90 minutes as we really start to delve into some of the details, some of the mechanisms by which we can make your life easier and give you more peace of mind as a caregiver. And so today, Marianne, what I'd like to do is ask you just maybe in a couple of minutes, can you frame how old your mom is, when she was diagnosed, and what kind of behaviors you're seeing currently with your mom?
Okay, first of all, my mom is 95 years old. And I feel like she's had dementia since she was about 82 is when it kind of first started, and then diagnosed around 85, I believe. That's when she stopped driving because she couldn't remember how to turn the car on.
Mm-hmm.
And so through the times, I mean, she's very talkative and very social, and so she's always just chatting, telling you the same stories over and over and over again. Not always fun stories, but that's part of the just dealing with it. But just recently, within the last maybe 6 months, the last 2 months have been the absolute worst, where she's just kind of unaware where she is. She doesn't know if she's at her house or my house. She has a house right next door to us. So my brother and I have come to, we've been doing caretaking, like he'd come in the morning and I'd take care of him in the evening. And then that was getting to the point where neither one of us had a moment to go do shopping, anything.
Yeah.
So now we're doing every other day. And, but when she's at her house, he stays with her. And
Okay,
since
good.
our houses are right next door, when it's my day, then she stays with me. I mean, I spend some time at her house letting her feel comfortable, but when it gets nighttime and dinner time, I bring her to my house. So
how mobile is she?
She's pretty mobile. Recently, she's been off balance, but she's in very good physical health. I mean,
Has she fallen at all?
yes, she has fallen a couple of times, and one time she broke her shoulder. So, that's why someone has to be with her at all times. We have a monitor on her for bedtime. And there was a time during this span where she would be by herself, and we'd call her and say, Mom, take this pill, take this, take that. And, it worked for many, many years, but now it doesn't work. I mean, she can't process how to take a pill.
Right. And most likely she doesn't know which pill to take, and she doesn't know. So one of the biggest things that we run into, and we're going to talk about the stages of dementia and what Alzheimer's is in just a second. But the thing for you to take note of is when we allow our loved one independence, which is so important when they have dementia, we also need to be a fly on the wall, cameras in every room type of thing, because if they don't remember they took their medication, then they'll take it again and again and again till the pill box is empty, until the pill container is empty, in which case you have a different hospital visit and probably not one they will survive. Mm-hmm. The other thing that you mentioned with falling twice, she is now a fall risk. So if you listen to your words, and part of what we do during these sessions is I listen to how you frame, how you view her. Mm-hmm. And then I listen to the facts of her situation. Mm-hmm. So you said she's physically strong, she's pretty mobile, and then she's fallen twice. So do you see the dichotomy between what you are saying and what your belief system is about her capacity? Mm-hmm. Versus maybe perhaps that the reality isn't quite so rosy and such good news. Right. And the other thing to always worry about is that third fall could be a broken hip. And that's not a good thing. That's a bad hospital visit. Let me tell you, I've coached some loved ones, some family members through broken hips, and it is usually the surgeon wants to do hip replacement surgery. They have to put them under anesthesia. That accelerates the dementia in a very big way. And they come out even more disoriented and more unable to function, and they lose most of their independence. Right. So we want to avoid all of that rather than waiting until that happens. So she's already given you 2 warning signals. So she needs to have a mobile walk, what my dad calls a wagon, right? Because it's great for getting out of your chair. It's got a cool place, a mobile purse actually for ladies, my mom used to put her purse in there with Kleenex and a notepad, and it's also a seat. So if you position this as a tool not a walker. A walker is that gray thing that has the handles on it and has tennis balls on the front and flat feet on the back. That's a walker.
Yeah.
The
Right.
wagon has wheels and is a utility cart. It is not a walker.
Right. Got it.
So terminology differences, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Because my mom wants to be so independent. When I walk with her, I take her to little shopping, little ball games, see the grandkids play soccer. When I walk with her and hold on to her arm, she slaps my hand away.
Yeah.
She doesn't want me to help her.
Right. And so the wagon enables her to be mobile and independent. By holding on to her, you're creating a dependence. And frankly, we as humans want to be as independent as possible. It's a societal thing, though. You walk in Italy and everybody's arm in arm. But in our society, in the American society, leaning on anybody is considered a bad thing. You're giving up your independence. So try to avoid the physical assistance unless she needs the actual support. But the wagon will help her do that. So let me talk a bit about, because you and I have chatted just before the show about what dementia is and what stage she might be at, because you've heard some conflicting information.
Right.
So dementia in general, there's 70 different types of dementia, more than 70 actually, but they're the majority, 60 to 80% of them are Alzheimer's. And the way that you know Alzheimer's is, one, they do a PET scan to look at the shrinkage of the brain and the shape of the brain. They can do an MRI as well, but PET scans tend to tell them just as much information, but it's up to you. And they see that shrinkage of the brain. You also see anxiety, depression, because the individual realizes they're disappearing. They realize that they're struggling. And that's where the anger comes from. Anybody out there who has a frustrated loved one, it's typically because they know something's really wrong. Like they can't, they know that they're asking the same question over and over again, but they can't stop themselves because they can't remember the answer. And so it's this vicious cycle. And so at the earliest stages, so Alzheimer's is 60 to 80%. The second one is vascular dementia at around 15 to 18%. And then the third one is actually Lewy body dementia, which Lewy is the doctor who discovered the Lewy bodies, the proteins, and that's more of a behavioral dementia. And then the last one, that's number 4, I should say, is frontotemporal dementia. And that typically occurs in those with dementia between the ages of 45 and 65, but it's not Alzheimer's. So sometimes it can be a result of a traumatic brain injury. And then, of course, the other 66 or plus follow behind that. So we typically do some cognitive memory tests to assess the individual's ability to follow tasks, because that starts to become the medication. I don't know what medication is. I don't know how to take it. I don't know if I took it. That's a key indicator of an Alzheimer's behavior. And it's also a key indicator of mid-stage. So there's a test called the Mini Memory State Exam. We abbreviate it with an acronym, of course, as MIMSA. And if you're in the teens, basically from 12 to 20, odds are that your loved one is in the mid stages of Alzheimer's, which means that they're still somewhat functional. They're still somewhat mobile, just as your mom is. They're repeating a lot of questions. They don't have very good short-term memory, if any, honestly. Where we start to see that transition to late stage is when they lose mobility. So my mom's legs, so on my 14-year journey, by 2010, so within 9 years of her first signs, she would collapse. Literally, her brain would not be able to send the signals to the legs and the back to support her body, and she would just collapse onto the ground. So we put her in a wheelchair because the Alzheimer's had affected her mobility. You might see trouble with swallowing as well. Again, the Alzheimer's, depending on where the amyloid plaques and tau tangles are, can affect their ability to swallow, which is why bite really tiny sized food is better, and that they don't eat that much. So don't overwhelm them with the big plate. So that's kind of the difference between early stage is typically when they're the angriest and the most frustrated because they're starting to realize that they're losing capacity. But I do want to remind you that in any stage, early, mid, or late, that they are always still in there. Who they are at the heart of their being is still in there. My mom knew me until the very, very end. She couldn't talk. She was non-vocal for 8 years. She couldn't walk for 5 of those. But she still knew me and would hug me and knew who I was. And so people say, oh, well, she still knows me. Well, he or she may still know you, but the disease is still progressing. It's just that it's very unique to each of us. So your mom may have a very different experience than my mom, which makes it even more difficult to cope with, right?
Yeah.
So can one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, what would you say is your biggest concern right now with your mom? Because you said your brother's taking care of her and you're taking care of her. I honestly am more concerned about both of your well-beings, because dementia caregiving ages you and subjects you to being a victim to one of the top 5 chronic conditions, health conditions. So stroke, cancer, obesity, high cholesterol, high heart disease, and by 20 to 60% more so than non-caregivers. So I worry about that scenario. But what would you say? Do you agree that that's probably the biggest one for you, is how do you care for her now, or what else would there be?
Our concern is, my brother, when I went to the memory care center, I thought, oh, I think she'll like this because she's very social. And there's lots of people around and everything. Mm-hmm. But when she was there, she, first of all, she walked in and she started to say hello to everybody. And I'm thinking, oh, great, this is going to be great, because she's been to, care facilities with her sisters and mm-hmm. other relatives in the past, so she was doing really well. Well, then Sabrina was showing us the room and we played bingo and she got it, what was happening. And she was mad. I'm not coming here. I'm not ready, blah, 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 blah. So now she threatens my brother and I with, don't put me in a facility. I'm going to die in my house. And so we're trying to go along with her wishes. That's why mm-hmm. we're doing every other day,
Yeah.
To give each of us.
It's wearing you out though. And
I know.
And it's not good for you. So in my book, I mention the care options. So what I would suggest that you do, or consider at least, is in-home care. In other words, bringing in someone who is dementia certified. That's really important. Uh-huh. And if you need resources, I can help you out with that. That's part of what I do, is from the coaching perspective. But the concept here is that it gives you relief. You bring them they can do dementia activities. So getting the stimulation right now. And this breaks my heart to say it, because I know they're hard words to hear, but you actually are giving her the worst care possible, because you're not trained in how to stimulate her and engage her in activities. You're not trained if she's goes incontinent, if she's declining right now. And they tend to do this. They tend to drop and then level out, drop and then level out. Okay. But again, the experience is unique to everyone. So that's what my mom did. That's what my dad did. I've heard that from others, but your journey may be different. And so the important thing here is to take into account that you need help. And it's important for you to bring in skilled help. And when we tell our loved ones, the most important thing is that we give you the best care possible. That's also another transition, which is after in-home care, when things decline further, then that's time to move her to memory care. She may be, so she may be right now. It's kind of hard to tell because I haven't met her or we haven't talked enough. But usually in that first session, we start to get to know her a little bit. She may be better off in assisted living for 6 months until she finishes her decline and levels out. and then move her to memory care. So that's something to consider. But right now, I strongly encourage you to find in-home care help that's trained with dementia, because the conversations about how you get someone to do something is special wording that you may not have the training on what words to use, or how to redirect, or how to get someone to take a shower. They know how, they've been trained. So by doing that too, one, you get your life back, because as caregivers, we lose our relationship. And once in the demented mind, the dementia mind, you fit one hole or the other. So you are either in the daughter role or you are in the caregiver role, and they don't treat caregivers who look familiar very well. Like, that's the short end of every stick, because they feel like you're my daughter, so I can say to you whatever I want to say, and don't touch me. I can do this on my own. She would never say that to a caregiver.
You're absolutely right. I see that all the time. She does that when people come around. She can turn it over and be different, but with me, and then, I'm guilty too, because I would never speak to a stranger or a friend probably the way I can get angry at her about her asking me 12 times in 10 minutes where her purse is.
And you can't get angry at that, because to her, it's the first time she asked the question. So the other beauty of having in-home care is that they know how to redirect that behavior, so that they start teaching. And it depends, again, like if she's mid-stage, she may retain that, okay, that's a redirect. I'm focusing on the wrong thing. Or it helps you get your relationship back, because you do not want this as she deteriorates, your relationship will deteriorate as well if you stay as the caregiver, because you're going to get upset. You're going to be frustrated. It's going to affect your health. And you're off at a doctor's appointment. I have a client right now where she's like, I have 5 doctor's appointments I have to go to because I'm so stressed over the past year of taking care of this individual. And now the doctors are telling me that, before I could have taken a pill, now I have to have surgery. I mean, it is scary what caregiving of a person with dementia, what it does to you. Yeah, and she never would have wanted that, right?
Right. I've been to support groups, and they told me the number about, 60% of the caregivers can pass away before the person they're caring for.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
In that relationship, I kept thinking, well, that's probably husband and wife trying to care for each other.
Not necessarily, because think about it. Most caregivers are women, first of all, so 66%. And then on top of that, most caregivers are over the age of 60. So once you're over 60, then, that's kind of when things start breaking down a little bit, frankly.
Right.
And we handle stress in a less than optimal way. And we don't get sleep because our phones are right next to us in case our parent needs us, or and the same is true with spouses. And it really does deteriorate your health. But also, what's more important here is, don't you want to have a journey where you have peace of mind, that you're doing the best thing you can for your mom, and that you still have that relationship? So there's no guilt or fear or sense of anxiousness or what should I do next? It's, you've got a plan, and you can now move through that and be able to know that it's all going to be okay. It's going to be the best it can be.
Yeah. No, because I definitely feel that way. I don't feel like the daughter anymore. I feel like the caregiver.
Yeah. Well, we need to fix that. So, let's see. So when you took her to go see memory care. Yeah. And again, I think that would be probably an assisted living opportunity there. You mentioned that she went to play bingo. How did that go? Did she do well? Did she engage with everyone? How did that go?
Well, no, that's when she realized what I was doing as far as showing her the facility. And she continued to play the bingo, but she was really angry. And so she would not engage with the people like she was doing 30 minutes before that. She was
okay. So one of the things that you could have told her is, we're here to look. We're not here to commit. And
I
it
did.
really depends on what her language capabilities are. It sounds like she has good command of her words, which is good. Again, another indicator that she's mid-stage and not late stage at all, and maybe even early mid-stage.
But the one thing that she can't, like, she can, when she's angry, her words can come out.
Yes.
And I mean, and she's not in foul language or anything.
No,
She's
no,
not
but
like that,
upset.
but she just, it comes out. But she does not, if I'm talking to her and trying to not reason, just explain maybe a television program,
Mm-hmm.
she doesn't understand.
Right.
She does not understand what you're saying to her.
Right.
So she
And
gets
okay,
that
so
on
that's definitely mid to late then. So one of the biggest challenges is when they fall, and something gets injured or broken, that the physical therapist will do very little work with them potentially because they can't follow instructions. So they have to be able to lift your leg, move your arm this way. Well, they don't know what you're talking about. So then we go through and I talk about this in my dementia Q&A groups and in my book, is you have to show, don't tell, lift your arm, bend your knee, wiggle your fingers. And most PTs are not trained on dementia conversations, by the way. Most medical people, medical staff are not trained on dementia. So you want to keep, for my mom, I had it written down. She never goes to the hospital. If she falls, we do the best we can at her memory care community, but she will never go to the hospital. We had such a bad experience with a lack of dementia training at the hospital when she did fall the one time that I would never take her back to a hospital because they just don't have any training on the communication skills. And there's a huge opportunity there. As long as we can, get the bandwidth, make it a priority with the hospitals and medical staff. So you don't want her there, but it's also a matter of how do you position something. So a lot of times loved ones, family members try to over explain. So I'm currently doing a presentation round about turkey and stuffing with a side of dementia, which is all about how do you cope with the holidays. And in this process, I talk about the fact, do not tell your loved one, well, first, mom, we're gonna go to lunch, but first we're gonna stop at the bank, then we're gonna go to the dry cleaners, and then we need to. So you make these complex sentences that have the sequence that you can follow, but they cannot, and so they just kind of glaze over. So if she's sitting quietly watching the movie, odds are she does not understand anything that's going on. And then when you try to explain it, all you're doing is making her feel like a child. So you're actually exacerbating the problem by treating her like a child and explaining what's going on. And then she also realizes you're talking to her that way because she can't remember. And that makes her angry and sad because she's able to process that information enough to say, I can't even understand what she's saying, and I can't watch this movie, and I'm just useless. And that's where the depression comes from. They spiral. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I see that. That happens with her all the time. Yeah. And we do see that. We understand, but it's just the frustration of not knowing like you say, the redirecting. If we try to redirect, it just gets into another issue.
Well, so let's talk about redirecting. So let's walk through a few scenarios where she's doing something where you need to redirect her. Like if she's looking for something like a purse, or if she's wondering where you're driving her to. If you can give me some examples, I can give you some examples back of how to redirect and whether that might work.
Well, I will say this is when she goes to bed, and she does this with myself and with my brother, both. When she goes to bed, she probably gets up 5 times looking for her purse, her hearing aids, and her glasses. And I have them sitting there, and I have them. I want her to keep them visual so she can just glance. She hides them. Yeah. So she's looking for them because she's hidden them. And she puts them under the bed. She puts them under.
She doesn't want anyone to take them.
She doesn't want anybody to take them. So she hides them, but then she has to get up. We get up find her crawling on her hands and knees looking for her things. And this happens at least 5 times. When she finally says, okay, I'm going to bed, then it's up and down, up and down, and up and down.
So that's really bad for fall risk, that she's getting up and down that often at 95. That's really scary. So that's not a redirect. That's a behavioral problem. So what you would, and we use that term behavioral because it's a behavior that's putting them at risk. And so if she's doing that, the only thing I could suggest with that is to create something that doesn't make it easy for her to take the things and hide them. So, for instance, when does she have the opportunity to take those things and hide them? If you remove the opportunity for her to hide them, or you do a let's play hide and seek before we go to bed, and then you find the purse, you find the glasses, you find everything, and then you tell her, I'm going to put your purse with me so it's safe. Is that okay? Now, she will likely not remember that that's what you're doing. But I'm also worried that she keeps getting up at night. And so to me, if she's getting up at night, so what I typically do is I listen to the behavior that you share. And then we look at, well, if we back it out one step, that would be, let's play hide and seek and find everything and then put it back where it belongs so that she can see it when she gets up. Ideally, I want her, if we back up another step, to be so tired that she doesn't wake up in the middle of the night. So what that shows me, go ahead.
No, she doesn't really wake up in the middle of the night. Once she gets to sleep, she's good. It's that initial go to bed. She goes to bed and lays down and goes, oh, where's my purse? And she gets back up and goes and looks for it. And we find it. And then she says, okay, good night, goes to bed. And then 1 minute later, where's my purse? And she jumps back up. So this like 5 times is like initially right as she's going to bed. But once she gets to sleep, she stays asleep.
Okay, that's good. Now what we need to do is accelerate the time at which her head hits the pillow and that she goes to sleep. So that means that we want to increase her stimulation, her exercise, safe exercise. We're not talking about her running around the block by herself.
No.
And that's why I mentioned bringing in-home care, because they'll keep her mind stimulated. And that's something you're looking after her physical well-being. Right. But watching a movie or watching TV is the worst thing you can do with someone with dementia. Her being at home alone is isolating, and even, I hate to say it this way, but even your brother or you being there is isolating. That's not enough stimulation. That's why assisted living allows you to have a lot more stimulation. What you're saying,
because my daughter is a special needs school teacher.
Yes.
And when because she helps us a little bit, when she's there, my daughter plays games with her and makes her play cards and makes her do things.
Good.
And my brother and I are like, we're over it. We just can't.
Yeah. And that's why you need help. You need to get help in home care. And then the other thing we can talk about in a future session is about how do we start to migrate her into the assisted living space. Memory care might have scared her. Assisted living gives her a chance to keep her independence, but also allows her to socialize more. We could do a respite visit where she's there for a couple of weeks, and we tell her that her doctor requires her to do this every year as part of her health preventive care. So, I mean, we can come up with a way that it gives her peace of mind. And some people may say, well, isn't that lying? It's not lying. The whole thing that we're focused on is how do we give your mom and a loved one the most peace of mind that they're getting the best care possible, with you knowing the same, right? Because you need peace of mind and knowing she has the best care possible.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to start with, was the respite care, because we're okay with her living next door and doing this. But if if we need to go away for the weekend to visit our kids or something else, that's when I was thinking, well, I'll use the respite when I can, if I could get her used to it, because then we could do a vacation trip or something, you know.
So here's the way transitions usually work. So someone with dementia needs to be moved as little as possible. So if she had early dementia, you could get away with, oh, we're going away for the weekend, you're moving in. Oh, you're coming back, then you're going back. Do not do that. You will create such behaviors and such distrust and such disorientation that you won't be happy either. So what it has to be is at least 2 weeks. The reason being that she has to have time to adapt. She's going to be on the phone calling you in the first week every 5 minutes saying, I can't believe you put me in here. I can't believe you did this. I can't believe you that. Now, one of the key differences between assisted living and memory care is that memory care is locked. So she can't walk out the door. In assisted living, you would still have to have a companion, in-home care companion, to monitor what she does with her free time, like walk out the door and not come back. I've heard that happen as well. So having a companion with her. So here's the ideal situation. You hire someone from in-home care who comes in 3 times a week for 4 hours. She gets to know that individual. Then you say, okay, respite time. Your doctor said that I need a break. And your brother needs a break, and so we're all going to go do something, but we want you to be safe and happy. So we're going to take you. So this is not at this stage, this is not, hey, do you buy into this? It's and I know some people frown on this, but you wouldn't have to tell her until she's in the car to say, okay, we've got your stuff. you're going on vacation and we're going on vacation. And the doctor said that we have to do this for everyone concerned. This is for your health and ours. I worry about over explaining it too much. Yeah. So then the person who greets her is her in-home care companion. Now we call them a companion because it depends on how you want to use them. If you want them to drive her around, if you want them to just be there with her to do puzzles and do different things, that's really a companion, not housekeeping and fixing meals and toileting and all that kind of stuff. But they do have that capacity to do that. But so that person greets her and says, oh my gosh, I'm so glad to see you. Let's go check this place out together. You leave, you don't come back, you don't go back the next day because she's just looking for you to come back so that she can rant and rave, and that's going to make you feel guilty. And you shouldn't feel guilty about giving your loved one the best care possible. So that in-home care companion is the consistency between her being in her home with that person and then her being in the assisted living and respite with that. So with that companion. Okay. And so because of that, we have that synergy that makes the transition easier. And the hardest thing for family members to do is to step away for like 3 days because she needs to adapt. And you're a constant reminder of what she doesn't have in her life anymore, which is her home. Yeah. And so that's how that transition works. So we'll do another coaching session on transitions for you. But I want to go ahead and wrap up because we're at the end of our time. So this would be an example of a 30-minute session. And I also want to point out that what we would do next, Mary, is we would walk through the 8 steps of the dementia journey, the 8 stepping stones. And basically what this is we start over here with, with the diagnosis, and then we walk through care needs and what the triggers are. So you're at a point now where the trigger would be that she needs additional help and we don't want her to fall again. So we need to bring in-home care. So we would build plans around each one of these stepping stones. These also are parts of the chapters in each book. Building a care team. Who all does that include? Your care team does evolve over time. And then how do we talk? How do we have the conversations that are difficult, emotional roller coaster and the emotions of your loved one? How you visit? Because when we visit, a lot of times we say the wrong things. And we ask questions like, well, don't you remember? Which is the worst thing to ask. Yeah, no. And that's good that you don't. And we talk about people that aren't there that they can't remember, which is also we want to avoid as much as possible pointing out their deficit, their cognitive
Okay.
ability deficit.
Mhm.
Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
good.
Yeah, that
Well,
makes
thank you so much for giving me this
Okay.
opportunity to work with you and to share your story. It's been an honor.
I learned
Benjamin?
a lot already.
Yeah.
Wow. It's amazing how, Marianne, you were able to really share some questions and stories, and Pam, you were able to interact and give just new food for thought, right? I think that's the beauty of a coaching kind of relationship in this. I think a lot of people aren't used to it. We're used to personal coaches for exercise. We're used to coaches for finance, but most of us don't think about like a coach for caring for my mom or my husband. Like, who would have thought, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
anyway, thank you.
And
Thank you
the-
both. Marianne, thank
And the
you.
one thing that really resonates with me is you said we're not giving her good care by letting her depend on us.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
And it's hard on
mm.
you too. So it's two sides of the same coin. You're suffering and she's suffering, and you're both trying to do the right thing. But in reality, there's some changes that need to be made in order for her to stay as healthy and independent as possible, and for you to stay as healthy and independent as possible too.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yes.
mm.
Thank you.
You know, there's a story that you're making me think of, Marianne. I used to work in home care where we would manage caregivers going into people's homes. And I remember meeting with a very loving husband, and he was so proud of how he was taking care of his princess at home. He was sacrificing for her, making it happen. And I walked into that home after talking with him on the phone and hearing his pride in that. And his princess didn't look like a princess. You could tell his princess was not getting the care she needed. She looked
Right.
frazzled. She didn't look beautiful anymore. I knew that if he had just a little bit of help, right,
Yeah.
she could feel the princess that she was. He was trying so hard, but he just
Oh,
needed some extra arms to help him, you know?
yes.
So that has stayed with me
Yeah.
all these years from that day.
Wow.
Anyway,
And a lot of times the husbands especially will, if the wife, I have a woman who lost 20 pounds in 8 weeks because her husband only fed her watermelon and jello because that's all she wanted.
Oh, yeah.
And so she cognitively really started to fail. And I was working with the daughter, and the daughter said, you know, I'll never have mom back. I'll never get hugs. She'll never say I love you anymore. She's gone. And it's just a shell now. And I said, oh, wait a minute. She's still in there, but she's malnourished and dehydrated. Let's get her back. A month later, it gives me chills. We were on a call, and she said, I saw mom today, and she said my name and said, I love you, and gave me a hug. And I said, yay,
Yeah.
success. So that's what nourishment and hydration do. But it's also a different environment. She moved into memory care. We got her what she needed and the support that she needed so that she could be a better family member and restore some of those memories and make those. Her daughter was just she was crying. Because she had really thought that her mom was gone. And these are moving stories, and we have to do as best we can, which is really what my passion is to educate as many family members as possible so that they at least know what their options are and hear these stories of success. So thanks for sharing that, Benjamin. That was a really good story.
That was good.
and I do want to shout out Marianne. You know, the work you're doing to care for her is huge. There are so many elders who don't have someone like you in their life. And, you know, I just want to honor you. I know many of our cities don't have a program to honor caregivers like you.
Yeah.
In my city, we have
you.
a big program where the mayor comes out and thanks caregivers like you, things like that. And not every city has that. So I just want you to know our country thanks you. Right?
And, you know, my brother probably is like you in that respect. I mean, like you say, most people are women are the caregivers. My brother tries so hard to do his share, and that's not very common at all.
No, you are blessed for sure. And your mom has the 2 best kids on the planet. and she probably knows that deep down, but she still wants to be the mom. So you still have to give her that dignity and respect. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Well, my last comment will be, Pam, if a family wants to connect with you, I have put in the link or in the comments below a link to directly to your calendar. Basically, people can go to that,
Yes.
fill a few pieces of information, and get, I think it's a complimentary 30-minute session just to talk
It
about
is.
what's going on and see if there might be a fit for some dementia
Yep.
coaching. Okay.
Exactly. Yep. Alzheimer'sFamilyConsulting.com. And then just click on Work with Pam and we'll do that 30-minute consult. Just
Perfect.
like this one.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you
Right.
both. You two have an excellent week, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks
Okay,
so
thank
much. We
you.
appreciate it,
Uh-huh.
Benjamin. Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome. Talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good.